Okay guys, I was going to make a quick video for you. People have asked me about how I render my videos for 4K for YouTube. When I went to 4K, every computer I had would crash and lock up and couldn't handle it. Just got a new laptop just to do video editing. Well anyways, when you upload to YouTube, you're going to go to the rocket ship. You're going to click this. Could pick the YouTube settings, but as you can see, it wants to do 1080p stuff. I don't want that. I'm going to do 4K, but this is the only choices it gives you, although it is H.264, and you can do 4K. I like to use either custom export or 246 master. You click this one right here. You're going to check your file name, whatever you want. I usually save all my videos to the desktop so I don't lose them. We want a single file. Now we're going to export our video. Usually I do QuickTime, but I'm not a fan of Apple, but I do this because it seems to be compressed more, but YouTube does recommend MP4, so that's what I used to use. I don't know, I haven't done enough playing to know the difference. So you're going to click on MP4. You want a codecs of 264. The encoder, I just always check auto. I don't think I have a graphics card. That if you had a graphics card, you'd pick that. Resolution, that's what we're going to want. Ultra HD. 4K is referring to this number right here, not that number. Whereas 1080p, you know, that number. Frame rates, I've got to where I'm trying to do everything in 30 frames per second, but I let it tell me what, because I usually use a mix of my phone, my Pocket 2, and my drone. If you go down here in your settings, when you're first setting up your timeline, when you're using other things, Davinci sometimes will say, hey, your frame rate of your video file, the original file is blank blank, do you want to change it? And if you hit yes, that's how we get this 29.97. The next most important thing when you are uploading to YouTube, if you do automatic, it's going to produce a file that's going to have a bit rate of somewhere around 200,000. That will take probably 12 hours to upload. But if you originally aren't, if your source videos are your phone, my Pocket 2, or my drone, there's no reason to tell it best and have it do a 200K bit rate when my phone only records at 40K. My Pocket 2 usually records at 70K, but now my drone is recording at 100K. So if there's drone video in it, I'll usually want to restrict it and change this to 100,000. So that's what I'm going to use if it's drone footage, okay? Now, if it's just phone footage, or my Pocket 2, I usually go with like 80,000. So what I usually do, the last video I just did that I'm going to show you I did three different renders to show you the difference in file size. And the first one I'll show you is I think 80,000, then the other one's 100,000, and then when I hit automatic, it gave me a 200,000 bit rate for that file, which I don't really want. I'm going to change this restriction to usually 80,000. So ideally, and YouTube's going to tell me that it's usually going to want like 50,000, but I want to give it more because YouTube is going to chop your video up. It's going to reduce it in their compression. Okay, here's an example of right there is how you're going to change your quality and your bit rate. The higher the bit rate, the more your the better quality, the more going to be, and the better looking it's going to be. So right here is the recommended bit rate settings. So you can do the math, but everything I want to upload on YouTube anymore is going to be 4K. YouTube saying 35 to 45 if it's an SDR. Or if it's an HDR, 44 to 56, I just usually save it as an 80. The higher the bit rate, the bigger the file's going to be. Could actually quadruple it. And as you can see, it will just take forever to upload. When you start getting, I think this is going to be a 40. This has got a bit rate of 100 and it's taking forever. It's probably going to take 4 hours for this video to upload, and then it will take hours for YouTube to render it. Whereas if I would have sent one of the smaller files, I'm going to show you in a second the difference in the bit rate. Everything else is the same. The same video, I just rendered it with 3 different bit rates. Okay, this is my holiday hunt, the lowest one. I restricted it to 70,000. You can see I had a file size of 9 gig. Then I re-rendered it with a file size of 100,000. And it gave me a file size of 11 gig. And then I didn't restrict it whatsoever, and I let Davinci just do its thing with auto. It threw out a file size of 28 gig. Now, what was the bit rate of this file? I know this one I restricted to 100, this one to 70. How much was this one? So as you can see, when I left Davinci to just do it automatic, it produced a 28 gig file with a bit rate of 200,000, 200K or so. That bit rate is doubled it over the 100, but it increased the file size by 3 times almost. So in Davinci Resolve, this is kilobytes a second, automatic, or if you hit restrict, what it's going to do, it's going to restrict it, and it's not going to let the file size go above 80 megabytes a second. And I have really good luck, and that's how I usually updo it. The rest of these settings you really don't need to worry about if you even understand what a proxy media server and all that other kind of stuff is. Don't need to worry about it. This is the stuff you need to worry about right here. Main thing is where you're putting the file, okay, your file name in this, single clip, pick your codec, and that's what we're going to do. If you're not using Davinci Resolve, I highly recommend this program. Like I said, I've used other ones. This is free. This software used to be $100,000, but this is a hardware company, okay? They make their money off their cameras, and I highly recommend their speed editor. This is my speed editor, Davinci Resolve speed editor. If you're going to edit video, this thing is well worth the money. I think I paid $100 for it off eBay, brand new, still in an unopened box, and it's well worth the money. I don't know how much it is retail. Instead of using a mouse, this is how you spin this wheel right here, and I mainly only use a couple keys, and that you're going to find the spot you need, and I hit split and delete. Basically only use those 2 keys and this wheel, but this wheel is, you can get right down to the frame with this wheel. It is just the coolest thing. See when you do this, it's just the coolest thing. Otherwise you got to take your mouse and you got to go click your bar and move it around and do all this nonsense. When you got a little, I don't know what it's called, but it's the coolest thing. You can spin it fast, hit split, delete, and if you wanted to use transitions, you can hit this button right here. There's a bunch of other ones you can trim in, trim out, but like I said, I mainly just, when I'm cutting video, the speed editor is designed for the cut page on Davinci. Source in your timeline, and this is the most awesome software. I don't understand how to use 90% of it. When it came to 4K, open shot, it couldn't do the 4K. The software was just bogged down, and I found Davinci Resolve, and I've never looked back. Like I said, they make their money off the cameras. They make Hollywood movies with this software. There's almost nothing this software can't do. It's just amazing. So when you're going to go pick down here at the bottom is going to be, going to be our media we're going to use to make that video I just made. So these are all your different, my Pocket 2, my drone, everything. But usually start in the cut right here. You form your timeline, which I showed you already. Hit the cogwheel, get your frames per second and your resolution. And then you're going to set your timeline up. This is what you're going to do to fast go in here and make all these cuts on your video. Then when you're going to start doing this kind of stuff, you're going to do that in the edit menu, which is going to give you a look like that. Now you can zoom in, you can zoom out, and this is designed to edit and not be cutting. Because if you want to cut, you can, but you got to do things like grab a razor blade and come in like that. And you need to learn what all these little settings do. You can zoom in and out of your timeline like this. You can't do that with the cut. The cut, you can't do that. This is just to go through and get your raw footage. Then you're going to edit it. Then if you want to mess with your sound, this right here is what I don't understand about Davinci, and this is what makes it so powerful, is these nodes. And this is where you do all your special effects. Your Fairlight down here is and this is where you can go setting all your, I rarely use anything in here. I'll play with the volume, but that's about it. I'm not gonna, we got an equalizer board here. We can do all kinds of stuff with it. What I do use a lot is to color grade. This is very powerful. What I usually do is this right here, and we keep it pretty simple, but we can grab this bar somewhere if we want to. We're going to define our three colors. Everything's broken down into three colors: red, green, and blue, and that's how we're going to get white. And so it's going to come out with our color saturation like that. So we're just going to grab this right here. We can manipulate this however we want. We can come in here and we can blow it out. We can darken it. We can change the colors. It's pretty powerful stuff. Now, some advice with your drone: you always want to underexpose it and color grade in post, because if your video is blown out like this, there's not much you can do to change it, okay? But if you take your video and it's sort of dark like this, you can always increase the colors, but change them. You can get, there's just so many, it's just endless what you can do with what all you can do with it. This isn't a video on color grading, but really change stuff around. There's different ways. The other way you can use is the color wheels. And one thing you have to learn about Davinci Resolve is they relabel everything and come up with their own terms. But you can grab these color wheels, really change stuff around. And this is going to be your basic temperature, contrast, brightness, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not real good at it, but I can get it to do what I want to do, and that's about it. Your gamma correction here, your lift, and that's going to lift the shadows up out of the darkness. We can change our tint, our temperature. Anyways, and if we don't like what we got, we can always just hit the reset button. And all this is going to take place in this node. See these nodes, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with it, in and outs, and just all kinds of stuff. On how to save your videos, what frame rate to use and what bit rate to use. Bit rate is important, and I'm telling you, you need to bump that bit rate up, or that's what happens when you watch your video on somebody's big screen 4K TV and your video and just looks terrible. More than likely, it was your bit rate. So you really need to change your automatic to usually restrict to 80 meg. So there you go, guys. Hope that helped.